Before you talk to a cover designer, before you think about your book formatting, before you even pick which self-publishing platforms you think you will upload and sign up for, you need to know what the trim size for your book will be. Yeah. And today we're going to go over everything you need to know about trim size. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm MK Williams. I'm an author and independent publisher. I love sharing my insights about all things self-publishing with you. Before I get into the details about today's topic, don't forget to hit subscribe. That way you'll be notified every week as I put out new videos about self-publishing, making a career of being an author, and now being a mompreneur. Now, over the last few months, I've had a lot of questions come in on this channel, on my other videos, and in my DMs and social media that all go back to trim size. So people can't figure out the cover files, they go to upload and the platform doesn't offer the trim size they wanted. Lots of issues that could have been solved with some pre-planning. So we're going to go over that today. And before I dive in, I really need to give a big thank you to Formatted Books for sponsoring this video. Since I started to work with them for my own books, and I now recommend all of my clients to work with them, guess how many error messages I've seen pop up for myself or my clients when I'm uploading to KDP or Ingram Spark or any other platform? Guess. 0, none. The team gets the interior formatting done and it looks amazing, and they know how to do the cover, which means I don't have to think about whether the cover designer knows the page count so the print cover spine is correct. Nope, one team, easy. I highly recommend you check them out, and I have a link below where you can do that. But before you reach out, you still need to know the trim size. So let's start with the most basic question. What is trim size? So the trim size is the size of your book. Okay, so we're talking about the width, the height, and the thickness or the spine. You can probably clock a book genre by the trim size. Workbooks and planners are closer to the 7x9 or even a full 8.5 by 11 inch sheet. Children's books are usually square or landscape. Trade books have this nice rectangle. So if you only plan to have an ebook version of your book, you don't even have to think about trim size. It's only related to the print book. Knowing the standard trim sizes for your genre is important. You want to match reader expectations, and trim size will impact your page count. 100,000 words on an 8.5 by 11 or standard printer sheet of paper is much fewer pages than the same word count in a 6-inch by 9-inch trim size. The trim size will dictate how many words fit on the page, because even if your trim size is 6 by 9 inches, your words won't occupy that much space. They won't go all the way to the edges. You need to have what's called a margin. This is a standard buffer of space around the text that insulates it from the edges. It means when the book is printed, those small variations happen and your words won't get cut off. So let's see in this example. See, there's this nice margin here. And then there's this gutter so that my words aren't going all the way through. You're also going to have what's called a bleed. Now, this is really important, especially if you're doing a children's book or books that have illustrations or images, and your image does need to go all the way to the edge of the page. You need to extend that image a bit so if that there's a slight variation in the printing and the cutting, that you don't get this really harsh white line. So here's an example with this children's book that I helped put out through Choose Fi, Planning a Party at Baobab Place. So as you can see, it's landscape because it's for children. And you can see the images go all the way up to the edge of the page, but there's no line. There's a bleed that goes over. So that way when this is being cut by Ingram Spark, there's no white line there, okay? So what are my options for trim size? Now, each self-publishing platform lists the trim sizes available to you. I'm gonna have links below for the major self-publishing platforms that offer print in multiple formats. So for paperback and hardcover, I have those listed below where I could find them. Now, it's interesting, as I'm recording this today, Ingram Spark even just announced that they're allowing for more trim sizes. So this list changes, and sometimes they're adding sizes and sometimes they're retiring sizes that aren't being used. So you need to make sure you're up to date, and that if you are using maybe a non-standard size before you go through everything, like double check that they still have that size available. Now they also have guides and templates that tell you the exact amount of margin and bleed to include for each of these standard sizes. So again, links are below for that. So you need to look at the books in your genre and measure them. Now, you could actually get out like a tape measure and measure them. A fun trick is that if you go to the books page on Amazon.com, it gives the dimensions. So you can kind of see, hey, this is the comp book for my book and the genre I want to be in. This is the size. Okay, start to look at other books like, okay, they're all kind of around this dimension. So it's actually really nice that Amazon does that. Good job, Amazon. Okay, so once you know the size, then you need to go and check that your self-publishing platform has the trim size available. Ideally, you want the trim size in both paperback and hardcover so that you don't need two print interiors. That would be super annoying. I made that mistake with my first Author Your Ambition books. I had the print book in a smaller trim size, but then that same trim size wasn't available on hardcover on any of the print-on-demand platforms. So when I wanted to add that later, I realized I'm like, I don't want to have two versions of the book. I'm just going to wait till I do a second edition, and I'm going to upgrade the trim size, and then I can finally have a hardcover, which you can now get for both self-publishing for the first-time author and book marketing for the first-time author. Okay, also depending on the paper type you want, you may be limited to trim size options. Some of the higher quality paper that's more photo quality or illustration quality, that's full color, you're going to be limited to the number of trim sizes you can get. And usually that's to the standard sizes that you would find for a photo book or a children's book. So they're not excluding that option that you want, but you may not be able to get that for all trim sizes. Now, in general, for nonfiction or trade fiction, I like the 5.5 by 8.5 or the 6 by 9. Why? Well, I just kind of like the size and how it feels in my hands, which is very subjective. Also, it's fewer decimal points to remember to enter again and again and again and again at potentially transpose when you are going to the different sites to confirm that they have the trim size, when you are looking to get your templates for the cover and for the interior, when you are uploading it. It's just fewer things to mess up. Some will give you 3 decimal points, which is like, oh, wow, that's super specific. You have to remember all of those. Whereas 6 by 9, there's only 2 numbers I can mess up. A lot easier. So that's some of my personal reason for preferring that. Now, obviously, if you're writing for children's books or you just like a different trim size, that's up to you. But just make sure that you're looking at the different websites that they have that. And another reason why I like those 2 trim sizes is that as of the time of this recording, you can do both paperback and hardcover in these sizes across all platforms. So it's super easy, and I like that ease of use that I could take my book anywhere and I don't have to worry about trim size availability. But again, I'm usually writing nonfiction or trade fiction, so I do those standard sizes. All right, so when should you have made the decision by for your trim size? I think this decision needs to be made before you talk to anyone about your cover art. I know some authors will have their cover made before they even write the book. I know for some that like adds motivation to finish writing, and maybe that helps you. But you likely need to tell your cover designer the trim size so they know the correct dimensions and the right proportions that they're working with. Yes, they can modify that later, but it's kind of a big headache for everyone. And then you have to constantly go back and check, is this the right trim size? Is this the right trim size? We didn't revert it. So you definitely want to know before you start the formatting, the trim size, because that's going to impact the active area, the margin, the bleed. And if you change your trim size once formatting has begun, you're going to pretty much have to start over. Whether you're doing it yourself or whether you're working with somebody, you're going to have to start over. And that means you have to pay them to do it all over again. So you need to know it well before you start formatting. So I hope that this has clarified trim size for you. And I know it seems like a lot of details to keep track of, but it is. And I want you to know that there are services out there that can help. Like if you do not feel tech savvy enough to manage the formatting, if you don't feel like you're just like, I just want somebody to double check that these are all correct for me. Like, I don't want to mess up my trim size. That's why I use Formatted Books. That's why I'm super grateful that they sponsored this video, because they have made my life so much easier to know that a team of professionals is working on my book, that it's going to look great, and their prices are perfect for self-publishing authors. So definitely check them out with the link below. All right, what other questions do you have about trim size and the sizing for your book? Let me know in the comments below so we can keep the conversation going. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit subscribe. That lets YouTube know that you like this information and want to see more of it, and then they can get this in front of other authors like us. Now you can get back to writing your book.